So speaking of user questions, and speaking of David Ziegler, we may rename this segment the Pineapple Roads Mailbag, brought to you by the Waffle House in San Antonio. He submitted 17 questions today, possibly closer to 20.
Dude needs a hobby.
If this is his hobby, I'm more power to him. I friggin' love the questions. But we don't have time to read all of them. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do the Pineapple Roads, aka David Ziegler mailbag. I hope I haven't just outed him, but and I'm starting to think even with other people, our style is catching on because some of these user questions are showing that people get the show here. So the training has done its work. So when we get to David's questions, I am going to read 3 of them at a time, and you can choose one that you want to answer. From Fred first, at RLF86 on Twitter. We've got a lot of stylish and social media savvy players. So the obvious question is, which Arsenal player do you think has the most stylish pubic hair? Andy, we're going to start with you.
I mean, the obvious answer here is it's got to be Bellerin, right?
Oh, God, you stole my answer.
I mean, it's got to be Bellerin.
All right. Yeah, but does he have a pubic man bun, a landing strip, or braids? Which do you think he's going with down there?
I'm going to guess Bellerin's got the landing strip from belly button to top of penis.
Does he shave? If I show how he shaves, am I going to end up doing the gold?
Then I also I think that Bellerin will sometimes get creative, Mike, and sometimes it'll be like a lightning bolt, landing strip.
Oh, you think like he has like the barber shop?
Oh yeah, totally.
And give him like a special look just in case of a situation on the pitch with the pants.
Yeah.
Or is he going to get crotchless pants so that you can see what he has going on?
I could also see that, how they've got like where women like bedazzle their vaginas. Maybe he's bedazzled his.
I think it's called vajazzling.
Where did Drew go? Why did he left?
Why has he left the country? We have Becca saying waxed, screenplay a Brazilian, landing strip with glitter, says Joshua Page. Archie says, what the fuck have I just tuned into? Drew, do you have any other suggestions of who it might be? Or is it going to end up being like Rob Holding or something?
No, it's going to be Guendouzi. He's going to have that full Samson hairdo.
That was my other choice.
Yeah, that's going to be my vote. So.
All right, well, it's 2-1. Unfortunately, Nate's not here to weigh in. All right, from Dragomir Vardarov, a more serious question. Does the imminent promotion, and this is what we talked about, does the imminent promotion of Lundberg and the links to the young French lads point to the club laying the foundations for the next manager, Freddie, rather than believing in Emery? We've pretty much covered. I mean, Andy, what do you think? Do you think Freddie's here to kind of serve as a backstop to a failure this year?
Yeah, I can't say. I doubt that our board have hired Emery as the guy, and they've outlined like, hey, we're going to give him 3 years and we move on to the next one, because you can never put a time frame on it. I think the promotion of Lundberg going into that role is for him to be that bridge between youth and senior, which highlights to me that we are in a financial kind of holding pattern, and but we also have invested a lot in these youngsters, so why not give them that opportunity? And who better to do that than him? He's been
a lot of the guys that we're talking about coming in and fighting for first place squads played for him in the youth setup today.
Yeah, both 18s and 23s. So I think he's a great bridge. I don't know if there's been hey, we're going to promote him because he might be the next manager. I don't think it works that way. You wouldn't do that in business. You wouldn't hire someone to say, hey, they're going to be the next CEO. You would give them the opportunity to prove themselves like anyone would. So it's a great promotion, I think, for us. And I think he'll work well in connection if Edu does come in, because let's not forget they were teammates for a very long time, and they probably have that relationship and are able to communicate well with each other. So there's a lot of great things with that Freddie appointment.
Yeah, I like it. Is he pretty much, Drew, is he pushing Steve Gould the other way? Is he going down to the youth setup, or is he just going to quietly be
No,
phased
he's
out?
going to the youth setup, and Bulls has actually had a lot of success with the under 18s, under 23s before. He's won multiple trophies with them. He's brought through some good young players. Jack Wilshere came through under him, actually, to be specific. So he's had success there. If it's a role that he can reestablish himself in, I think it'll suit him.
I'd say he needs a change of scenery.
Yeah, I think he does. I do think he knows and loves the club enough to where he should be kept. I know he gets a lot of stick for doing or not doing enough, supposedly, under both Arsene Wenger and Unai Emery. So this will serve as a good test. If he goes down there and all of a sudden the under 23s tank, then you kind of know maybe that there may have been some sort of background to those claims. Just moving back to the whole thing about Freddie and Unai specifically, I know this is a bit off topic, but I do think that people aren't paying enough attention to Emery's track record before he came to us to really see as to why the theory is there that he's not the long-term appointment for this club moving forward. Because if you really look at it, when he got a big job to step into, things fell apart with him at PSG in terms of his relationship with the players, in terms of tactical questions that we have the same technical questions that he was being asked of him at PSG. The style completely went out at the door there, but he was more successful at clubs that had smaller expectations, that really didn't have a chance to push and really try to go at the elite for Champions League spots and maybe be an outside shot at winning the league. And moving forward, that's where Arsenal needs to be. But he's never had a position where he was successful at, where there was a club that had ambitions past maybe just doing well in the Europa League and finishing no higher than fourth. But if people want this club to progress, then Emery's track record leans towards the fact that he won't be the one to do it, which is why I genuinely think that moving forward, I think that's why the club gave him 2 years with the option for the third. If they were so sure that he was going to be the man to keep going, then they would have given him the third year. I think this year, obviously there was going to be that betting period, and we can be critical about his first season, but there was obviously going to be a lot of things to fix under him. But I think this is the year that he has to prove everything. And if he doesn't, they're not going to give him that third year.
Yeah, I mean, the first year was the stop the bleeding year. The second is you gotta turn it around the other direction.
He has to win the Europa League, or we have to get top four this coming season. If he doesn't do either of those, I think he's out the door. I don't think they pick up the option for the third. And then we'll have a better idea if Freddie was promoted, because they're just going to give the job to Freddie because of those young players we have coming through, because he does know them so well. Or if it's going to be Freddie's going to be the assistant, and like Andy said, that bridge between youth development and tracking them into the first team successfully, and bringing in a manager who has a dedicated track record of success with teams that have younger players, with teams that do rely as much on the youth system as they do on the transfer market. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. Or can I throw this in? What if, right? We had a conversation with Allegri last year.
Oh, Christ.
Hold on. Allegri was then told, Ronaldo's heading your direction. So he turned around and said, well, pump the brakes for a second, because now I've got Ronaldo. He said, I'll give it a year there. I'll take a year off. Shared that with those who were in the higher echelons of Arsenal, and it's all coming full circle.
Like Andy.
No, I personally...
Why would he leave with Ramsey incoming, though? I mean, you don't leave a team when Aaron Ramsey.
I don't think we have a chance in hell at Allegri. I think that obviously he's going to want to go to the pinnacle of whatever league he ends up in.
He'll go to Real.
I think he might go to Real. He could easily end up at someone like Man United, because we don't know how Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to do. He could easily get sacked come November, and then if Allegri is still unemployed, then he can just slot right in, and they'll go from United will throw however much money at him that they want, because that's what to do. So
if Emery gets us fourth place next season, semifinals or quarterfinals of the Europa League, whatever, it doesn't matter because we got fourth place.
Right.
And Allegri basically said, I'm interested in the challenge. Would you, regardless of the performance, this is a question from Mike Hernandez, would you basically say, sorry, Emery, we've got an opportunity to get a guy that we really, really, really want?
Is this question for me or Andy, or both?
For you.
Quickly,
though.
I would go for Allegri simply because he has a more established track record of success with bigger teams. Again, Emery's track record is established at Sevilla. He did very well at Sevilla. He did very well at Valencia. But when he went to when he made the jump, he really wasn't successful. Despite him winning 7 trophies in 2 years at PSG, he's still mocked in France. Despite that, there's a reason for that, and he's not really well thought of there.
Yeah,
I think for me that's telling. I think Allegri was brilliant at Milan. He did very, very well at Juventus. I don't think it's the type of manager on a tactical level that we need, but I do think his pedigree would help bring the club forward. Sure.
Okay, and yeah, Emery to me, I mean, the Europa League it's a one-off tournament. I mean, obviously, it meant everything to us as it turned out this year. But I think we make top 4, or he's gone. And frankly, I think the way we make top 4, if it's a year like the Leicester year where everybody fell off and it was like a contest to see who didn't want to get in the top 4, then I still think they could, depending on who would come in, they can do better. And this is from a guy who backs Emery as much as anybody, to stay and finish the job. But
let me ask you this question though, right? We keep talking about Emery not being good enough for a top club. Are we really a top club anymore? Like, genuine question. Because when you look at the last 10, 12 years, we haven't done anything of substance. We haven't really challenged for the league. The one opportunity we had to win the league, we didn't. We faltered at like a lot of steps and Leicester stole it. We don't have the buying power. I mean, if you look at the top 6 clubs in Europe, they're all buying players for 50 million. I mean, look at Manchester United. They're in the same spot we are. Probably a tad worse because they finish below us, so they don't get as much money as us, and they're outbidding 50 million per player because their global brand is much larger than ours. So I just asked that question, like, we can't attract an Allegri type of manager with a 40 million pound budget and these bullshit players. I don't think Allegri is going to want to come into a club and rebuild it from the bottom up.
So now you do think we have a $40 million budget?
Well, but that's what everyone, like, that's what you assume if you, like, unless you're Allegri and you have that opportunity to speak with Josh and Stan, outside of that, you don't know. So
we don't operate like United City.
Exactly. So why would you want to come to us? Right. We are a massive project. So the question is are we better off bringing, like as Drew said before, we bring in Unai to be kind of that 2 to 3 year for the next manager who's like, okay, this is when it starts. That's my frustration with Arsenal, is if they just came out and just put it all to bed and just said, hey, this is where we are as a club. We're never going to be in that $150 million or £150 million budget for a transfer window. It's never going to happen. We have to build from within. We have to build youth. I think it cools the expectations. I don't see us being that club we were 10, 15 years ago. We are now going to be a club that I think is more aligned with the Everton, Wolves, Chelsea, Mike. I think Chelsea are on the way down too. I mean,
you're doing what you always do at home with your family now. You're just like telling everyone to stop expecting so much.
Riding the wave of low expectation.
Exactly.
I told you, my dad told me that at 12, and it stuck with me.
All right. So next question, and thank you for that one, Dragomir. From J-Ball at John Gunners. If you could choose one team, this is just a one-word answer. You could choose one team to relegate next year. Who would it be?
Tottenham.
You would want that? Okay, now we're going to do more than one word. Would you really not? You just want them to be relegated to the point where we never play them again?
The fan base?
I mean, it'd be great, but Celtic lost a little bit of their being when Rangers spent 4 or 5 years out of the top flight and I would imagine, I don't know how every Celtic fan felt, but I mean, their seasons were
it's only 2 matches though, Mike. We have great rivalry with United still. We have great rivalry with West Ham, with Chelsea. There's enough to go around. Just to see them get relegated would just be absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, that's true. Drew, what are you going? What do you
I mean,
got
I think Andy's already said it all. There's no more. There's no club more I want to see relegated than Spurs. It's not even close.
Right.
You have to just go into the new stadium and to have to play championship football in that.
That's true.
Not fill it out. Have their finances.
That's what I thought was going to happen to West Ham that year that they moved to that stadium, and they were really struggling for a while. But.
Yeah, it has to be Spurs. I mean, the joy I would get out of seeing that, especially because one of my closer friends, she's a huge Spurs supporter. Her dad was one of the kitmen at Spurs. I would just, every time I see her, I would just smile, and that would be it. And then her reaction would say everything. So yeah, no, it'd have to be Spurs.
That would be great. I tried to not say Spurs because I was just thinking of the whole Celtic thing, but I thought Spurs would be the obvious answer. And then I realized you didn't say anything about Premier League teams, so I'm going to go with Stoke again. Have them go down to League One because those fucking guys suck. Now, Gooner Jack in the chat. Thank you for your comment. But we would never get into that kind of mudslaying and negativity about anybody else. So, while we appreciate and love and agree with what you said, we just can't be saying those things about our fellow supporters who are.
Let's just make it clear, right? We were friends with that dude up until 2 weeks ago, where he took the joke the absolute wrong way, and so to each his own. But I still like the guy. I don't. He got caught in the moment.
I used to, but I don't.
I know you don't, but in all intents and purposes, it was a joke that went the wrong way that didn't even involve Mike for a long period of it. But anyway, let's keep moving on, Mikey.
Yeah. All right. From Andrew, the Hinkley Gooner in the chat. Here it comes. Get ready. You asked if we got the question yet. It's a good one. Set your DVRs now so you can keep us forever. Okay. Drew.
Yeah.
If you were gay. I was just waiting for the little icon at the bottom of the screen to disappear. If you were gay, which of the current squad, and you can give two answers for this, or you could give the same one. Which of the current squad would you think is A, the most good looking, and B, the best lover?
I like how you're asking me this question first as well.
I mean, I have an answer right away. If you want to think about it.
I mean, here goes my answers.
First of all, as a straight dude, there's nothing wrong with saying a guy is an attractive guy.
No, there's nothing.
So
Andy does it all the time, except he's not a straight dude.
Of the current squad, I would say I'd say Lacazette's probably the more attractive dude on the squad. In terms of the best lover.
Why did you choose?
Because we're both black dudes, we have facial hair.
You're basically the Lacazette of New York.
You got to go with that. I'm not French, so I'd be more of the Hendrik Larsson of New York.
It's like you combined with Sebi would be the Lacazette of New York.
No. I would go with Hendrik Larsson of New York. We'll go with that. As the best lover, Jesus, I guess because
this is Andrew the Hinkley Gooner's fault. You got to go to Hinkley and take care of this.
I guess because he's pulling U.S. collegiate talent, I'd probably say Rob Holding because
she is beautiful.
He's coming over to the States and taking our own away from us. So
well, apparently not only is he doing that, but he's physically coming to this. Like I just saw on Arsenal America. I'm not kidding. The South Bay Gooners, who are from San Jose. He's apparently coming to a pub this weekend, and they reached out to the local supporters club and completely violated his privacy with his permission, I guess. And they were like, yeah, he's going to be there tomorrow doing something, and he's happy to take pictures. So if you are in the San Francisco area, Mike Hernandez, and you want to meet Rob Holding, get in touch with me afterwards, and I'll point out the.
Yeah, Mike, send that to me because I got a friend who's in San Jose. He might want to run over there for that.
Yeah, that'll be pretty cool. Just don't kick him in the knee, okay? I'm going to go best looking, and I'm saying this for the benefit of the lovely and beautiful Becca. It is Leno. I'm going to go with Burned. And he's definitely the best looking, but he would not be the best lover. 150% chance it's the man who Drew thinks would have the best pubic hair on the team, Guendouzi. First of all,
Guendouzi's so young, he'd just be very premature in his lovemaking.
He'd try to vlog it on Snapchat and scream when it's happening.
I don't know. I mean, he seems young but experienced. So, I mean, is he 19 or 20? Is he 20 yet?
I don't think so.
I
I
don't
think he's
know.
still 19. I have to
All
look
right.
it up.
Well, I mean, 19-year-olds can, they could just go all night. We've seen how tender he is. He loves hugging his teammates after goals. He's always just putting his hands on people, and so you know that he would be a tender lover. And he loves, he's French, if you know what I'm saying. And I really hope that you do, because I have no fucking idea what I'm saying right now. Andy, watch this podcast be the one that the Rapids media team looks at when they're trying to decide whether to give us credentials or not. Did we get Andy? Did we get your answers to this?
No, you didn't. So obviously, the most attractive has to be Granite.
Yeah, we knew that was coming.
Face of an angel. Best love maker. I feel like Lacazette's got to take that, and he's a pretty attractive guy too. I've always said though, Mike, if I came home and the wife was having relations with Thierry Henry, I'd make him a sandwich for when it was finished. I don't know. I would do the same for Lacazette.
You said the same thing about Justin.
Did I?
Not just here. I'm sure at some point you did.
Is that why he was showering at my house?
At least he isn't doing what I'm going to be doing to your plumbing in the month. We got some interesting answers to this. So he's the best looking. Oh, and you said Lacazette for the pipe.
Yeah.
Right. We have Glenn saying the Arsenal mascot looks like my wife. Andrew the Hingley Gooner, who asked the question, says, "Have you seen Mavropanos' legs?" Becca saying Bernie, as expected. There was another funny answer I saw in there. If not Xhaka, Holding, says Fredo. And then there was one other answer I saw, and I can't find it now, but it was funny. David Ziegler saying German is not a romantic sounding language.
No, it's not.
But Leno, I agree with that, which is why I chose Leno just to look at, not to have relations with. So, all right. So that is some important stuff that we had to get through. From Fredo, we've been linked with primarily young players this summer, most in the 18 to 23 bracket. While I think that's a good thing, would such a strategy leave us vulnerable next season to a further slide as young players learn the ropes of English football? Again, buying young players, especially from outside of the Premier League. I don't know that we're buying any 18 to 23-year-olds to play regular minutes, although we didn't think that was what Guendouzi was going to be doing in addition to Sex last year. But, Andy, are you worried just that we're not looking for enough? I mean, we get complaints because we're looking at a guy in Perisic who's 29, 30 years old. We're complaining, we generally tend to complain about buying people who are too young as well. And that wasn't what Fredo was doing, but
no, I think there needs to be a nice balance. Here's the deal, Mike. If we brought 3 players of Guendouzi's quality to Arsenal next season, we become a better team. I mean, I think there's still a lot of growth that's needed in that young man, but if you add 3, replacing some players who have gone or left the club, then yeah, we become a better team. But it's not just that. There are the rigors of the Premier League that you need to get used to, and that's what makes me nervous. Torreira by the end of the season was just absolutely on E. So there needs to be a nice balance, and so if we are going to go out and sign 1 or 2 youngsters, then we need to sign, I think, 2 or 3 players who have that high level ability. So like a Carrasco who plays regularly with Belgium. Everyone keeps saying, "Well, why did he move to China?" Because he got paid a shit ton of money. That's why he moved to China. And we've seen players come back and just be absolutely fine. I mean, a quality player is a quality player unless they're injured. So there just needs to be a good balance.
Yeah. And Andrew says we need to buy Ziyech. That is the classic example of the most obvious transfer that's just not going to happen for no good reason. We talked about this last night when we were chatting. If this ends up coming down to 5 million, 7 million pounds of transfer fee, and the guy wants to come here, he clearly play here, and probably not for $200,000 a week. That just seems like an obvious nailed on transfer to me. But anyway, not to get too sidetracked. Now we get to the Pineapple Roads raft of questions.
I've just realized that I can put David Ziegler in a timeout. But what does that mean?
It means he won't be able to say anything in the chat for a period of time. I was put in a timeout in the same old Arsenal, and then I think Lee put me into a permanent timeout in his chat because he wasn't a fan of the things that I was contributing to his podcast. So let's go to. It would be a shame to put him in timeout when we're about to listen to all of his questions. So, but reading his questions, I got some great recommendations for Netflix shows a couple of weeks ago, and I've watched a few of them. I watched Manhunt, the Unabomber. I just started Mindhunter, and I've seen a couple of episodes. And these are like episodes about FBI profilers and people who try to get into the dark minds of deranged individuals. And I'm reading all these user questions, and I feel like the characters in these shows. So, because I'm getting a very dark and disturbed window into the world of David Pineapple Rhodes Ziegler. But so we're going to read three at once, and you get to pick one that you want to answer. We're going to start with you, Drew, because I haven't heard your sultry tones in a little while. Group number one, is demustafication a word? And if not, why the hell isn't it? That's one. What would cause a ceiling fan to keep burning up and needing to be replaced? That's two. And are Dockers meant to be worn on the hips or up on the natural waist? So you get to choose one of those three, and get your feedback on that.
Demustafication is clearly not a word, but I like the sound of the word. I don't like the sound of what the word implies. However,
yes, we did when we brought you into our world, which again we appreciate. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
we did kind of upset the equilibrium about the Mustafi hate. Ours is generally pretty fake, but you are a true lover, aren't you?
It's not a true lover, but I see the pros and cons, and I think people.
You're level-headed, is what we're saying.
I'm level-headed, and I think people criticize Mustafi based off of how much we spent on him, not the player he actually is. If you look at him for face value of the level of the player, you're getting what you're seeing. He can be very, very good on the day, or he can also make bonehead plays on the day that will cost you.
Yeah, criticizing someone on their purchase price is dumb, but criticizing them on allowing 19 out of the last 14 goals at any point in time is probably valid.
But there have been some. Michael from Your Arsenal, one of them, wrote an article that was saying statistically Mustafi and Holding was our best center back pairing until Holding got injured. So that's the thing. There's evidence to suggest both ways that he has something to give, and that we would be fine if we sold him. I'd rather keep him as a third or fourth choice center back, where you give him the cups, you give him certain Europa League matches, and you rotate him in when you need a rest. But I don't think he should be starting for Arsenal, though. I think that's.
I think everybody can get behind that statement. I believe.
Yeah.
Question group number two. Why do people say whole nother? Is it mispronouncing whole other or whole another? I doubt that one will be selected. What do you think the sequence of events was that led to the invention of cheese? And this is the one that I'm going to choose for this one. Why are there only two words, blind and deaf, for when one of our five senses don't work? What about the other three? Why don't they get words? I'm going to choose this one. And frankly, there are words for these. They're just not as commonly known. When you have no touch, when you're being out of touch, it's called cronkying. Lack of smell might be one. I don't know if there is a word for that, but the opposite, someone who smells all the time, is called LG. And then when you're unable to taste, it's called you like pineapple on pizza because fuck it, I can't taste it anyway. So there are words, pineapple. You just aren't familiar with them yet. Group three, Andy, this goes to you.
Okay.
Why aren't hat sizes and shoe sizes based on the same scale? Now, you see what I'm talking about the profiling situation.
Yeah.
There's definitely some animals around his house that wish they hadn't gone anywhere near his house. But would you let Mustafi marry your mom, be forced to call him dad, if saying no to that situation meant that he got a 5-year contract extension and the armband at Arsenal? And the third question is, who's your favorite televangelist?
I'm trying to figure if who's that televangelist that just got like absolutely annihilated for the private plane thing.
Every one of them.
Yeah. I'll go with the Mustafi marrying my mom. That's fine. I'll call him Dad as long as I don't have to call him Daddy. I suppose that's a plus. He seems like he'd be a good night out.
Yeah, I mean we've seen that he can dance.
Yeah.
He can boogie. He can boogie down the dance floor. So all right. So you're letting him marry your mom, who has her own level of a house. I mean, she could definitely accommodate him. And I mean, from a hospitality standpoint, I don't mean that in any other way.
It's weird that she just told me she's going on vacation from the dates of July 12th through the 16th, and I can't quite pinpoint.
Wait, those are the dates I'm going to be in Denver.
Oh, that's why.
Oh, okay. All right. Next question. And then we're just going to go to some rapid fire individual ones that were too good to possibly not be chosen. Drew, what's the appropriate punishment for whoever keeps deciding to play Sweet Caroline in the stadium after matches? Number 2, do you have any recommendations for vacation spots after the summer tour? Maybe some places off the beaten path.
I think that question is directed towards me, Mike.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll let you answer it. And then the third one is, at what point in the history of this podcast have you thought, why did we start taking these questions? Never. I said this on Twitter. We've never said that. This is exactly what we had in mind.
So the question, vacation destinations, does it have to be in the United States or can it be anywhere?
Well, Andy, if that one's for you, why don't you take the Sweet Caroline question, Drew? I'm giving you the choice between 3 and then telling you which one.
The reason the question is for me is because Mr. Ziegler has been sending me pamphlets since March of places that I should visit in the United States. And
how many pamphlets in 3 months?
Oh God, easily 50. And the only place out of all these pamphlets I would go would have been Hawaii. The rest of the places I've had to actually Google to see if they're real.
Oh, and that's also the televangelist. Or is that the televangelist question as well?
Well, I don't think the letters he's had sent to me are from a televangelist.
It's from a real evangelist, from just a regular evangelist.
David's got way too much free time.
Oh, it's great. All right, so Drew, you can answer the vacation spots, or I mean, I guess you can't answer the podcast one, but so go with Sweet Caroline. What do we need to do with that person?
Public castration. I'll go with that.
There you go.
'Cause I absolutely fucking hate that song.
Yeah, it's not cool.
No.
It's not funny anymore, people.
Correct.
All right, some rapid fire questions then. One serious one. Would we all be feeling differently? And we've talked about this. If last season was flipped and we started out stumbling but ended with 20 plus games unbeaten. I have 2 thoughts on this. Number 1, if we started the season, first 6 or 7 games, with how we ended the last 6 or 7, where we won one of them and none of them were against top competition, would he have made it to the 8th week of the season? But secondly, yeah, I mean, obviously, if we had just gone like absolutely haywire or bonkers at the end of the season and barely missed out on 4th, we'd be really looking forward to building on that and going into the next season. Whereas right now it feels really empty because we had an opportunity to do something. Everyone else tried to make it easier for us and we still fucked it up. But Andy, would you, I mean, does it make a difference to you, or is it just the positioning and the Europa League final?
I think obviously it's really, for me, it would have mattered how the 22 games to end the season was going. I think there would be way more excitement going into this summer and into next season if those 22 games were games that we put away handedly. Maybe you get a little lucky in there, but like you're playing some good football, and on top of that, then you probably do win the trophies and what have you. But I don't know, Mike. It's a weird one for me. I'm still give him a season or 2 to figure this out. Let him build the team. I still don't want to, like, it's hard to answer this without judging the manager. You know what I mean? So.
Right.
But to answer the question the best I could is I would say that the 22 match run, if it was at the end of the season, it's just how are we playing? because I think even when we were in that 22-match run, it was a lot of fun, but we were still seeing a lot of cracks. And I think a true football supporter during the time, whilst it was enjoyable, still look back at it and go, hey, we weren't playing great football. Like, there was nothing exciting. Now, I'm totally fine with playing a 38-game season that's absolute dog shit and boring to watch if we're lifting a trophy at the end. I don't care if it's pretty football or not. If there's a system in place and it's working, great. But we never saw the system. We never figured it out. And I think we started off the season playing really well with high press. There was a lot of energy. And then I really think that Bellerin holding injury made him have to change the system, really made him have to tweak it. And then we just never got to go all systems firing. And then God knows what happened with Ozil, but I truly think he was hurt during that time. And so then that happened. We just got really unlucky with injuries. We just don't have the depth. Like City could have 2 or 3 of their main squad drop out, and Pep can go, okay, no problem. I can mix and match and don't really have to make that many changes. Like, it seemed like Unai just lost the plot. And whether that's his fault or not, I don't know. But just how the 22-match run would have ended the season and how we would have played. And I don't think it would have been any better. So I don't think it matters.
Yeah. All right. Drew, would it be weird to put Carson Wentz's name on my next Arsenal kit?
Yes.
and that one was that was also I think that was an Eagles joke aimed at you, Andy.
Yeah, fuck the Eagles.
But that does bring up an interesting point, which is,
who wrote that, do you think?
Who wrote that? Pineapple wrote that.
Wow, that motherfucker.
Better question, though, is what would be the single worst thing you could put on your Arsenal top? Like something that would get your ass kicked in the middle of the 12 pins. Is there anything like more enraging for you to put on there than Silent Stan or Kroenke with the number 1 underneath it, or I Love the Rams or something? I mean, like, what would be the worst possible fake name that you could put on, or real name?
This is for me?
Sure.
And Percy? Cole?
Yeah, but you still see every once in a while. I've seen a guy show up at the pub with a Van Persie jersey on,
hey,
which is like, I mean,
hey,
well,
Drew, what are your thoughts on a current kit with a legend's name and number on the back?
No, I'm not a fan.
Okay.
I just feel like
that's a whole discussion that
I'm
some people are like, why are you telling me what I can do and what I can't do?
No, but that's like me, going out getting a Yankees jersey and throwing Joe DiMaggio's name on it. Like to me, that's just for me personally, I don't see the point. If somehow through the grace of God, I had a relative that had an actual Joe DiMaggio jersey before they actually had Joe DiMaggio jerseys in the first place, hand it down and wear it. It's one thing, but you don't really see LA Kings fans running around putting Gretzky on the name of the back, do you? Like, I don't know. I feel like if it's a retro jersey that you find and then you put a player's name from that period that the jersey's on, sure. But if I get the Arsenal kit this season, I'm not going to put Thierry Henry's name on the back of it. So
we got some people saying Kane would to put on the back of an Arsenal jersey. Kane, Gazidis, Mustafi. You just get your ass kicked if you walk in Mustafi. Actually, at Gooner, I want to say this. I ran into somebody who I now am friends with and find him fascinating. His reasoning was fascinating. He was wearing an old Nasri jersey. And I was like, that's an interesting choice. And he's like, yeah, I can't even remember what his explanation was, but it was something about like he wasn't trying to glorify Nasri. He was trying to talk about how far we had come or something like that. But I actually like this guy, but I certainly wouldn't have made that choice as far as my dress is concerned. But all right, we're almost done here. What is your favorite made-up Urban Dictionary entry? This one is for you, Andy, lover of the Urban Dictionary.
Yeah, it's got to be Dingus.
Hold on, we got a list of made-up Urban Dictionary entries. You guys say which one your favorite is.
I thought it was just going to be one of my favorites.
No. And by the way, I don't remember what pod that was. It was like late in season 1, I think.
But I'm not gonna
never heard a man laugh as hard. All right, so here are the options. Minnesota Mustang.
The actual definition to them.
Dave.
Without the definition, I don't know what they mean. Maybe save this for next time, and we'll actually have the definition for them.
They're not real.
They're on Urban Dictionary. Mike,
They're not on Urban Dictionary.
Hundreds of dollars going to it.
They're not even real enough to be on Urban Dictionary.
Why are you asking me this?
Because I like to read the questions that we are asked. Minnesota mustache, angry pope on a trampoline, flaming burrito dispenser. I think we can pretty much figure out what that would be. The old Michael Strahan, dining car surprise, and Seattle Pud Pounder. See, I need people to understand the level of weirdness we're dealing with here, and the danger that Pineapple Roads poses to society. I guess you don't have a favorite one of those.
No, I went to Urban Dictionary.
Oh yeah, here we go. Here comes the part where you see a guy laugh harder than you've ever seen.
No, I'm not going to.
Marcel de Wick, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, is in the chat first. I said you do an amazing job.
I'm not reading these because Beck is in the chat.
She'd be the first one to tell you to read them. Well, Marcel, thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. Now, see, this isn't fair to people who are listening on iTunes because you're not getting to see what's in the chat.
For the sake of the Rapids, let's not read that off.
Yes. All right. Well, if you want to see this one, you got to go to YouTube. You got to follow us on YouTube. You got to do all that other shit. All right. And the last question of the podcast. This is for Drew. When you need, well, we can all answer, but Drew first. When you need to excuse yourself to have some special private alone time, do you just tell the family that you're going to do some podcast stuff?
No, I don't have to explain what I do to people. So no, I just
I don't know. I asked you the other day what you were doing, but that's true. So you don't have to explain to anybody. Why? I mean, why lie? I mean, do animals in the jungle have to lie to their families when they need to go have a wank?
No, they literally sit right there and do it. So
I've never seen Gunnersaurus. I mean, he just does it on the middle of the pitch. I've never seen like the animal kingdom do it. So Andy, do you need me to reread the question because you're probably looking at the Urban Dictionary? This is why you wanted to share our screens while you were.
When you need excuse, let's see. I read it again.
When you need to excuse yourself to have some special private alone time, do you just tell the family that you're going to do some podcast stuff?
No, I just tell them I'm going to go poop.
So does that mean you take care of business in the bathroom?
Oh, I thought you were talking about pooping.
No. It's a special private alone time. That's what you like to do with your alone time?
As a child of Jesus Christ, I can't believe you're asking me this question.
Yeah, me too, right? All right. So that's season 4. We'll be back next August for season 5.
Drew's like, so guys, remember when I told you that I would join your team? And
well, someone in the chat was like, how is Drew going to make it through a whole season?
Multiple people have already posed that question.
Yeah, we just want to make it clear. I mean, you're welcome to, but Drew isn't going to be on this podcast with us all the time. He's going to be doing a separate show that appears on our channel, which is going to be as professional as this show is unprofessional. So we will certainly enjoy and love having Drew on as much as possible, but he's not going to actually have to sit through this horrible process.
Hey, Marcel's coming with a good question, so I want to ask it quick. Do you think any other manager would actually be able to do a better job with the squad we had last season?
Yes.
I'm going to say yes as well. Drew, why are you saying yes?
Because I just feel like it drives me nuts when people come up with this excuse that a manager needs his players before he can do his work. If you need optimal conditions to manage, then you're in the wrong business.
There's like a saying, like a good coach can beat his guys with your guys and could beat your guys with his guys.
Your entire job as coaching is to get the best out of what you have. There shouldn't be an excuse of, oh, well, I need signings before I can implement the style without these players. If that's the case, if you can't implement your style with the players, then you find a system that you can implement with the players. Managers that are so hell-bent on it's my style of the highway are the ones that struggle the most. There's got to be compromise. They have to bend to you and you have to bend to them. And that's the entire part of management. It's the ones that are saying, this is my system, and they keep spending money until they find players that fit that system. they usually don't last very long. It's got to be both ways. So for me, I think there were managers out there who we didn't even go after that could have done better with the squad. Yeah, because I think that Emery's style of football, he wasn't ever gonna. It was always going to be this way. He was never going to maybe have us be a bit more technical, have a bit more quality on the ball. It was always going to be, hard work, work ethic, pressing. It was never going to be stylish on the ball. And he was never going to allow our players to be that way. And I think there's a lot of things that have been written and suggested during his time at PSG that said that he struggled to deal with players who wanted to be expressive because he wanted to stamp it out, and it had to be very, very nailed on, kind of very, very regimented, very Prussian. I just don't think that he's willing to budge, and I think that's why we didn't get the best out of it.
Well put. And if it doesn't work out, there's a guy who's still sitting out there without a job. Old French guy that knows some of these players, so we can maybe get him back. All right. With that lovely thought, as we said at the beginning of the show, if you weren't with us there, we are thrilled to have Drew and also Nate Smith, who couldn't join us today for the podcast, but we will certainly have him on at some point over the summer. And we're looking forward to seeing how that takes shape. You have our support and admiration, and I'm sure it's going to be fascinating, as is everything that you do, Drew. And I'm not taking the piss right now. I actually mean that. Nate did an Ozil tonight, says Bulgarian Gooner. Thank you to Drew. Anything, one of the other things that we're hoping to be able to do is spread the word about the great writing that you do, and the other media that you do. So why don't we start tonight by mentioning where we can find you, other than New York.
I mean, you can find me at my Twitter is FMLeher, so FMLEHRER, and then I write for Your Arsenal, I write for Ekta Liba, I write for a bunch of other outlets as well. And to you and Andy, I'd like to say, danke, dass Sie mich haben. Ich kann es kaum erwarten, mit Ihnen zu arbeiten.
Bitte schön, Fräulein. What does that mean? Thank you, woman.
Thank you for having me, and I cannot wait to work with you.
Awesome, man. The feeling's mutual. Remember, please, to go to www.goonersversuscancer.com. You can also do goonersvcancer.com for those of you overseas who don't put the S in versus. Donations are open, and every cent of your donation, no fees or anything like that, goes to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Thank you for those of you who did super chat donations in here. As soon as this podcast ends, we're going to accidentally not turn it off, and we're going to talk about how much donations we got. But seriously, I mean, some of those donations were really, really generous. We don't expect that. We appreciate it. And we're looking forward to fulfilling our mission of raising as much money as we can for Gooners versus Cancer. Subscribe on YouTube if you're listening to this audio only. Come and check us out on YouTube. It's fun, except when it's not. There's going to be a link over there where you can click to subscribe, and that's about it. Andy, anything else from you?
No, nothing from me. Thanks
Cool.
for having us again, Drew. We're excited to add you to the team, and looking forward to season 4.
Yeah. All right. Come on, you Gooners.